tell us a little bit more about yourself. Like, what do you do? What are your hobbies?
Male prostitute.
Okay.
It has its ins and outs.
Joey is male prostitute. If anybody wants to hire him.
Okay, take two.
Cut.
It's RSM.
So back in the old days, I used to teach sports. So I was used to work in the ski industry. So I lived in winter for a really long time, which was really difficult because so I was living in Australia and did a winter there after living in winter for almost like more than a year. And then I went to Bondi Beach, which is a topless beach. So after more than a year of seeing people in like 23 layers of clothes and sort of walking around in the winter to see, it was a very difficult experience. But then I changed and I started teaching English overseas. And I moved to China. And then I moved to Russia.
Oh, nice.
Then I moved to Turkey. Then to, what was after Turkey? Turkey was Spain. Then Japan. Then Cambodia. Then back to China. Then Kyrgyzstan, then Azerbaijan, then Mexico, then Yemen, then Iraq, then Ukraine, then back to Yemen, then Ecuador, Venezuela, Qatar, to India, to Belarus, to Myanmar, and as I mentioned last year at this time, I was living in Ethiopia.
But you were teaching English in all those countries.
Education and training. So, for example, when I was in Myanmar, I worked in the National Parliament of Myanmar, and we were working with the MPs, many of who are now in hiding or have been arrested. And I even there was one news story of an MP that was killed recently because in the military coup. But I was working in the National Parliament with the MPs, and we were introducing the idea of kind of digital learning. Because the problem is they're only in the capital for half of the time when they have their meetings and whatever, passing laws, and then they go back to their constituencies where they don't have access to, United Nations programs or different governmental programs that work out of the capital. So we were trying to give them this sort of 365 access so that even when they're back in their villages and their towns, they could still sort of work digitally to be able to do these training programs and whatever else. So that was our main goal there. Doing something similar in Ethiopia. So we were working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They have like a diplomat training college. And so they wanted us to come in and sort of do an international relations kind of idea. So we were working with, achieving win-win through negotiations. We were talking about diplomatic language, like how to structure like press releases, how to do interviews, these sort of ideas. So it's still like it's education based and training based, but not like the present perfect or third conditional or like
understand.
Typical.
But it's like a greater goal, helping people over there.
I don't help people. I provide the keys to the doors they want to open.
Okay.
Right? I think a long time ago there was this sort of great white savior idea that, I'm from a rich country, I'll come and I'll tell you how to be rich.
Of course.
And I think it takes a lot to change that idea. And, and asking people, not telling them what they need, but asking them what they want and if I can provide that or not.
Different approach, okay.
And
in a way that's also helping, like.
Oh, it is, but it's more sustainable. Like the famous story is the UN goes into a village in the Andes of Peru, and they see that they're not sort of properly cleaning their hands, and their sort of toilets are near their houses and like a hole in the ground, and says this is not healthy. You need to have a toilet. So they spend $1 million building all these toilets in all these villages, and they go back and visit a year later, and they were using it as a house for the llamas. Right?
Okay.
Because it wasn't what they didn't know why they wanted it. They didn't really want it. Like it wasn't their preference, and we just came in and said, "You need this. Use it now," and it just isn't the right approach. So that's sort of my job. Is I find whatever somebody wants, and if I can provide that, then yeah, I go in.
That's a
and do
good
the job.
chance you're going like deeper into the culture and you're meeting the people and their needs and
To some extent, like it's really difficult to say that, especially like I don't speak any of the Ethiopian languages. I don't speak any of the Myanmar languages. I speak a little bit of Russian, especially if I'm drinking vodka.
everybody then speaks a bit of Russian. But basically you're coming there, you're observing, you're making the plan and
Sure.
everything. Okay.
We work with them and how would this best work? What,
Mm-hmm.
how would this approach? What about this? Oh, you don't like that? Okay, what about that? Okay, well, let's tweak that, and it's a little bit better. And so yeah, it sort of gets me jobs around the world. It's worked out pretty well.
Okay, so for now you were in how many countries? Living and visiting.
Living, I used to count. I used to think it was important to count.
Okay.
Because you sort of have to brag, right? Like, I'm better than you because I've been to
Now it's
21
hard to
countries.
count.
No, don't care.
Yeah.
I probably worked in around 20. And then I've visited, and so like each country I live in, so for example, I lived in Cambodia. It's super easy just to pop across the border and go
Yeah,
to
you told me
Laos,
that.
go to Vietnam, go to
a good
Thailand. Whereas if I live in Canada and then I have to fly overseas and then like that's the expense, right?
True.
Because they don't make much money as a teacher.
Mm.
But so that helps you. You live one place, but you visit 6 or 7 in the region and then change. So I think I've been to 130 countries. Definitely more than 120. But
Congratulations.
less than the UN 193 for sure.
But why Croatia? Why is not some other country like, I don't know, Serbia, Bosnia, Greece, whatever?
So, I mean, I wasn't really sure how long all these COVID travel restrictions would go on. So I was in the European Union. I was in Prague in the Czech Republic. And I'm only allowed 90 days in the Schengen zone. So I have to leave Schengen, which leaves, what was that, like Ireland, I think, Romania, maybe Bulgaria, I think Cyprus as well, maybe. That's not Schengen. And Croatia.
Okay.
So Ireland's too expensive. Romania is not letting foreigners in, I think even still. Like Cyprus is sort of, I'm not big on just island living, And so Croatia made sense. So I could stay in the EU, but and then I could go back into Schengen after 90 days if I wanted. And this was in January. So you'd heard rumors of the digital nomad visa, but there weren't really concrete rules and nobody had gotten it yet. We weren't really sure, and maybes. And so after being here about a month or two, things became a little more concrete. People started getting accepted. And so it kind of makes sense to stay here now for a little bit, as opposed to, because if otherwise it'd be 90 days back in this country, then 90 days back in that,
there, yeah.
90 days here and 90 days there,
Tiring.
and and I mean, it's just moving all the time and flights and like buying new SIM cards and like you have to buy all your salt and your pepper shakers every time you go, and like it's all these little things that like
You're
they
not
add
gonna
up,
move
right?
with that, but
So
Understand.
so Croatia just made a lot of sense. Plus, I have a bit of a family connection here. My stepfather is Tomislav Petricevic.
Oh, Petricevic.
So he's from sort of the north near the Serbian border.
Okay.
And he emigrated to Canada in the 60s.
60s, yeah, that
In
was
the
the
60s.
first moving to.
And I was here as a tourist. When were the Athens Olympics? 2004, 2008? 2008 was
not
Beijing.
sure, I'm not
2004. Oh my God, I'm old. So I was here in 2004.
You're not old if you feel like young in the heart. Age is just a number. That's what I say.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. So yeah, Croatia. It just logistically made sense. The fact that the digital nomad visa is now a real thing now made it sort of an easier decision to stay.
So what do you need in order to get digital visa?
It depends what week it is.
Okay. and who's working? Is it like nervous?
Exactly, right? So the basic requirements are first of all, you need what they call a proof of purpose. So this is some sort of evidence that you don't work in Croatia and you don't work for Croatian clients.
Okay.
So this can be something simple like my contract with my company overseas. The problem with that is, like most digital nomads don't really have a traditional working contract.
True.
Like if you're a YouTube creator, you don't work for YouTube.
You have like agreements with the clients.
Or not even that. Like you just get your advertising revenue from YouTube. Or you might get, if you're an influencer on Instagram, you don't work for Instagram.
True.
So producing what I think Croatians believe is, this traditional, I work for this company, they pay me on the 15th and the 30th every month, this is my salary, this is exactly...
It doesn't work like that.
I don't think that's what we are anymore.
Yeah.
So this is sort of, it's difficult to prove, but they don't really seem to have a standard at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's all right. You need to have proof of money.
Okay.
Now, when it first came out in January, we needed the equivalent of the average Croatian salary, which was really cheap. It was something like 800 euros or something, 900 euros.
I think even less. Really? I thought it's less.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it was quite less. But then in February, they changed that rule, and now digital nomads need 2.5 times the average salary. So we need, as of today, we need 205,000 kuna, either in salary or in savings, or some mixture thereof. What else do we need? So when it first came out, we needed proof of health insurance. But on March 9th, the Parliament passed an amendment to the Aliens Act. We no longer require this health insurance, and we don't have to join the Croatian mandatory health insurance program.
Oh, so you can just take any insurance.
And you don't even need that anymore.
Okay.
But that's a brand new law. And when I was speaking to a lawyer here in town, even they didn't know that it had changed.
Oh.
That's how new it is.
Basically, where do you check those information? Like online, ministry, something like...
Google is your friend, right?
Always, yeah.
I mean, like Total Croatia is quite good. They have a Viber group, which is very active in terms of, oh, hey, I heard this, or, my friend did this, or this is what happened. Sort of giving you these real life
connections.
What's happening on the ground. Because it's one thing to look at the ministry's website, and it's another thing to know what's actually happening.
In reality.
And then each police station will be different, right? Because they're sort of thinking that this is the same as a work visa or some sort of temporary residence other visa, and it's not as open and modern and cool as the digital nomad. So they're applying those rules to this one as well, which is not really the idea.
So basically, you have to be like a little bit smart and keep on researching, otherwise you're...
Yeah, so, know your rights. It's useful that, I know lots of people did it themselves, because you can just apply online. You upload like 5 PDFs, or whatever it is, of the different sort of requirements. But having a lawyer who sort of knows all these changes is helpful, and, Google every once in a while, the Total Croatia, Expat in Croatia, have a look on YouTube. There's lots of new information.
Reddit probably.
Reddit, there's Facebook groups that sort of have breaking news, so to speak. Yeah. Cheers. Even if you go, if you go to Iran, so Iran has Sharia law, where alcohol is technically illegal, except for the Christian minority. They can they can make their own wine and things like this. So there's this like underground market of like Christian wine, and they're all very secretive about it. Do you want some wine? I was in Afghanistan, right? So just a tourist, and I go to this little shop because I heard he had beer, and so I go and I walk in and I'm sort of looking around. He's like, "What do you want? Hashish?" I'm like, "No, I don't want heroin. I give you heroin." I'm like, "No, I don't want heroin." It's like, "What do you want?" "Beer." He's like, "Shh." He's like, okay. And he opens like this secret compartment behind the milk in the refrigerator. Here, take beer, $5, go. But like hashish, maybe
heroin is good.
Whatever,
Heroin.
man. Yeah, here I get no problem, you know. But beer, oh my
It's
god.
super funny. Yeah, religions. You know,
God,
Okay, so you were living in Ethiopia.
Yeah. So a year minus a day ago, I was living and working in Ethiopia, and then we were, all this COVID stuff started coming out, we were force evacuated.
Okay.
Because what was happening in much of Africa is the countries were closing their airports. So we had colleagues in Sudan or Mauritius who were then stranded in those countries because the airports were closed. So before that happened in Ethiopia, we had 48 hours. Our company said, get out, like get out now, because we don't know about tomorrow. And and so then I have been sort of on the road ever since. I think so it was Ethiopia. So I was in Addis Ababa. I moved to Vancouver for 1 month because that's my hometown. But it's too expensive. It was like $2,000 for an apartment. It was crazy, right? So I moved 7,000 kilometers away, staying in Canada, to St. John's, which is on the East Coast. So we're from West Coast to East Coast.
Okay.
Yo. And wait.
Like this.
Yo.
Yeah. Okay. Isn't that West Coast? No, this.
That's West Coast.
Okay.
Because I'm from the West Coast. West Coast, yo. What? Right. Okay. and so I moved to St. John's, Newfoundland is the poorest part of Canada, but it was much more affordable. But even then, I never knew if I had to go back to Ethiopia at any time. So I was just doing like Airbnb for like a month or two, and then I changed to another. So I had 3 different apartments there. And then the European Union finally opened up to Canadians, which was, I know. And what the Czech Republic has like a freelance visa, where, for example, if you're an English teacher, you can self-employ and you can like teach English, so you can legally live and work there.
That's cool.
Provided you have a few documents for the visa applications. But the day that I arrived in Prague was the day that they went on like level 5 absolute lockdown.
Oh.
Like everything was closed. There were like 9 o'clock curfews. Like you couldn't leave the radius of your house. Like all the shops, all the restaurants, everything shut down, including visas. So it wasn't even possible for me to apply. So I just hung out there for 90 days, which is what I'm allowed. And then I came here. So that's so Addis, Vancouver, St. John's. I had 2 places in Prague, and now this place here. And then I move again on April 1st.
2020. That's.
Yeah, so that's in the last literally 1 year. I've had 9 different houses.
Congratulations. Okay, so tell me, from all those countries, where do you see yourself the most? Like, which country had the most pluses to live in, to stay for like?
It's incredibly personal.
Definitely.
And it depends entirely on the individual experiences you have. So for example, I went to the Philippines on a holiday, and I went in the shoulder season. And what that means is it was just before typhoon season. So there's no tourists because there might be a typhoon. Everything's really cheap, but there probably won't be a typhoon.
Yeah.
But when I was there, there were 2 typhoons. And they were only small ones, so they didn't, destroy as some of the bigger ones can do. But if you go to a beach destination and it rains 24/7, what do you do?
Yeah.
And it's that sort of middle season, so not even everything. It's like split right now. Not everything's open. Not everything's available. Not until like July or August, right? So you can't go to the beach. You can't go to most restaurants. Like, what do you do, right?
Depends on the season, right?
Exactly.
Time of the year and.
So that gets really lucky. For most people, I recommend Turkey. Because it's
cheap.
Istanbul's expensive.
Okay.
But it's got something for everyone.
Okay.
So if you want a beach holiday, you go to Bodrum, you go to Izmir. You want to go shopping, go to Istanbul. You want to visit museums, there are plenty of them around the country. If you just want to like follow the person with the little red flag who says like on the left and on the right,
tour guide.
plenty of that. But if you want to be crazy and go to like, sort of the Iraqi border where there are still occasional attacks, but like beautiful places like Dogbayzet, you can go to Mount Ararat, which is where they say Noah's Ark landed. Really beautiful conical mountain. But these off the beaten track places, they have skiing in the winter, so it's got whatever you like. Turkey's probably got it. It's different enough to be exotic, but not so different that it's overwhelming.
People are friendly.
Mostly, sure. But like most of my friends, if they went to downtown Beijing, like that's so overwhelming, right? It's crazy and chaotic, and and you can't read anything, and you don't know what, and you visibly you're a minority, like you stand out in the crowd, and it's a lot to take in.
True.
But in some place like Turkey, like either of us could kind of sort of be Turkish, maybe.
Yeah, we can integrate a little bit faster.
So that sort of helps a lot. You can sort of read menus in Turkish, although you may not know what they say because it's a similar alphabet. So I usually recommend Turkey.
Okay, cool. So what would you say? Now you're in Croatia and Split for like how long? A few months?
I've been here, a little over 2 months.
Okay, fresh, let's say.
Sure.
So what would you say? What are the disadvantages or advantages here? Actually, what are advantages or disadvantages? What would you say?
It's the same answer. Croatia is very seasonal, which is both an advantage and a disadvantage. So let me give you some examples. So last week or 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, I wanted to go visit some of the national parks. So I went to Kirka, I went to Plitvice, Stafaf and Zadar. And the easiest way to do that is to rent a car. So I watched a YouTube video of some tourist who, like 2 or 3 years ago, he was in, I think, Zadar, and he wanted to do a similar trip, and he went around to 5 or 6 different car rental places. They were all totally sold out. He found one car available for 150 euros a day.
Yeah, it's crazy expensive here, especially in the season.
But because I rented it in whatever it was, sort of February, March,
a few months before.
I found online deals, and I'm not exaggerating, $7 a day for a car rental.
Here?
I had to go to the airport.
Oh, okay.
But $7 a day. I got a slightly better one, but it was $10 a day for a car rental.
Cheaper than
That's
Spain, Greece.
so cheap. It's ridiculously cheap. The Airbnb I'm staying at now, they've agreed to a monthly rate for, I think it's 500 euros. But during the summer, they charge 130, 140 euros a day, and they're full for 4 months.
True.
For the digital nomad visa, you have to have a lease agreement, which I think is strange because we're nomads, right?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, but okay.
But okay. And like going around here, first of all, trying to find legal accommodation where they're actually declaring their taxes, that was a struggle.
Yeah.
Trying to find someone who does year-round accommodation and not just like November to March, that was a struggle. So the same advantage is the disadvantage of Croatia. That if you come in the off season, crazy cheap, like ridiculous value, but not just cheap. There's a difference between cheap and value for money. Like I can get the same price for an Airbnb in Belgrade, but it's much older, very sort of Soviet,
Yeah, true. There is still like ex-Yugoslavia,
Exactly.
I like Serbia, but it's really like, back in the time.
But you come here and for the same price, like this place was renovated 2 years ago. It has not just an oven and a stove, but it's got like an espresso machine, and it's got like a lemon orange juicer, and it's got like, like all these, I don't even know what they're for, right? Like so it's not just about being cheap, it's about being value for money, at least in the off season. But the same issue applies to transportation. How many flights can you get to Croatia?
Oh, it's crazy during the winter.
During the winter, like I was living in Prague before here. There were no direct flights between Prague and Zagreb.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Yeah, and Zagreb is like capital city, but
then in the summer, of course, you have you go to the airport here and it's just constant stream of flights coming in. You know.
My mother works at the airport here in Split, and she says during the winter time sometimes they have like 2 flights per day. And all these low budget airlines, they just shut down. They don't go during the winter, so it's crazy. And comparing to summer, it can be like 50, 20, 70 sometimes flights, so it's crazy. Big difference.
So, you know, I think it depends on what you want with Croatia. If you want to, you know, go to the parties and bar and be around 1,000 other people, 20,000 other people, if that's what you like, Croatia's got that for you. But when I went to Plitvice a couple weeks ago, first of all, it was only 80 kuna. And I arrived at 10 a.m. I was the first person of the day.
Wow.
So I'm walking on these boardwalks. I'm not exaggerating, literally the only person in the park.
It's strange to, you know, experience Plitvice like that, you know, alone.
and Kirka was the same thing. So Kirka in the summer is 200 kuna. I paid 30. The cool thing is you can drive in the winter. You can drive right down to the main waterfall. You don't have to take like the sort of, you know, the shuttle bus. And again, I was literally the only person for the 4 hours I was walking around. That's amazing. So it depends on what you want. You know, it's also a little bit colder. It might rain. You know, so
True.
it's yeah. So
The weather is changing.
So yeah, it's the same answer. It's. Life goals.
True.
Hashtag life goals.
Do you have any negative experiences in Croatia, in Split? Like, I don't know, with some people, with some things, I don't know.
You know, coming from Canada, where any process that you want to do, you want to buy a house, you want to, you know, you need to have a funeral, you want to get married. There's a very well legislated step-by-step process. Sometimes it's complicated, everywhere is, but you know what the next step is. Even if you want to immigrate to Canada, you know, we have a meritocratic immigration system. This step, this step, this step. But here, in particular with the digital nomad visa, you go to the ministry's website and they're like, you need this, 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 and this. And they explain what you need. And then you talk to the police stations here and they're like, no, maybe we'll need a translation of that. And you're like, but the website said I don't need a translation. They're like, yeah, well, we usually get translations, so you know, we don't like you. The other person we liked, so we don't want a translation from them. But you look funny, and we just, you know, so yeah, we think we'll get a translation. And while we're at it, why don't you get a notary stamp on that? Just because, you know, like, why not? Let's flip a coin. Yep, you need a notary stamp on that today. Sorry, come back tomorrow. You can try again. Maybe you'll have different luck. So, you know, like that's not necessarily a negative experience, but coming, like when you do the research and you figure out, you know, these are the steps you need to take, and then suddenly you're sort of, you know, delving from that to the left or the right, it can be a little bit frustrating.
True.
With that said, I mean, the digital nomad visa is pretty easy to sort of get the documents for, so I'm certainly not complaining about the complexity of it. I just wish it didn't depend on which police station you applied at.
True. But okay, the moment of truth. What annoys you in here in Spain? Like, what do you get annoyed by?
The seasons.
Only seasons.
You know, like trying to find an apartment last month was just crazy difficult.
Well, you just Google, right? Are there some particular sites where you can?
Yep. So there. What's the
Nushkala?
So that was really useful, but the problem with that is it's almost exclusively like real estate agencies.
Yeah. Okay.
And what's unusual for me is I'm used to paying like a commission, but here it's 1 month rent.
Yeah.
And, you know, like it's not so bad at my price range because I'm only like 500 euros, but like what did you do to earn 500 euros? Like, you introduced me to the owner.
Yeah, nothing else.
And you
yeah.
downloaded the lease template off the internet.
Yeah.
For 500 euros?
But wait, that's like deposit. They will give you back those. Oh no,
That's
okay.
the deposit as well. This is the real estate agent's fee.
Ah, this is for agency.
1 month rent for the
Okay.
agency. So that,
Crazy. That's
you know, so if
that's like Amsterdam.
so like if you're like a family of 2 or 3 and you've got like a 3-bedroom apartment and you want to have a nice sea view and you're going to pay 2,000 euros a month or something, it's 1 month agency. That's 2,000 euros as an agency fee, which is extraordinary.
Yeah, that's crazy expensive.
So that, you know, like that's one of those things that, well, I guess that's how the system works. So you have to work within that system, but it doesn't mean I have to like it.
Definitely. Okay, tell me, what are like at least 5 places that you would recommend to other people to see in Split or in surrounding area?
Yeah, Croatia. It's all a highlight, man. Like, it doesn't even have to be
Well,
Dalmatia. Like,
it's
go up to
not that
Istria,
big,
like go
so-
to
The places that you already saw. like-
right. So I mean, like, there's all along the coast there are these dotted little towns and villages and even cities that you know, they have great old towns. Now, it does get a little bit repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I were to blindfold you and drop you off in the middle of an old town, like, could you really tell if it was Zadar or Split or,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
I mean,
kind of similar. Yeah.
kind of, sort of similar. It's sort of like visiting cathedrals when you go to, like, Paris or something. I mean, it's like another church. I mean, but I mean, yeah, like, you know, very close to here, just past the airport, Trogir is a really easy day trip. It's sort of like Split light.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a little bit smaller, it's much less busy, but they've got their own Riva, they got their own old town, they got their cool little tower that you can climb. I like unique things, I mentioned that before.
Hidden gems, like.
So I like Zadar
Okay.
because they got 2 really cool things that are right next to each other.
Pozdrav Suncu and or Jesus.
Jesus, yes, okay. Oh, yes, they got.
You're not in
sure
Rio.
there's a church. Yeah, that's fine.
That sound, that C from those.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they have the sea organ,
C organ.
which is this artist had this really cool idea, and they use the motion of the waves force this air, and it just makes, like, it kind of sounds like a 5-year-old at a musical sort of recital that only a mother would love.
Or a church sound.
Oh,
A
even better.
bit. Better.
You know, like, you have to be a little bit drunk to think it's good. But it's just creative, and it's new, and it's not something you see every day. And then literally right next to that, they have this really big circle, which they call the Greetings to the Sun. And in that, there are all these like solar panels, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they collect the energy during the day, and they use that energy to light everything up along their Riva, which is really cool. But the super cool part is they have all these little LED lights, and they have this wicked cool display, you know, that
Changing colors.
Oh, I have this
Yeah,
fantastic photo that looks like
I
totally
have
alien.
also a video as well. It's like
So I like those unique little things, right? And like, you may not, okay, it's not going to be the top 10 things to see before you die.
True.
But it definitely adds a little bit something different
Definitely.
than just like church.
And it's free. You don't have to pay
Yeah.
for that. You just have to go there, and that's it.
Free is the best price.
True. I agree.
Obviously, the national parks here are fantastic. Plitvice, like, there's no other place like it, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's just the natural beauty. But what I really like, there's some places that you pay to get into, and you wonder where the money's going.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like it's you're paying so much, and then you look and there's garbage everywhere, or there's just not much infrastructure. But like, you go there, even the bathrooms are incredible. You know, you walk in and it's dark, and you're like, oh, wait, and you make a little motion, the lights turn on. You know, they got these little like spray things that put like a nice little smell in the air. You
And
know,
you're happy. My money went where it
and
should
they got
go.
like little seat warmers on the toilet. So, well, they don't really, but I mean,
You're sitting.
yeah. Like it's pristine, it's super clean, the boardwalks are maintained, it's not like there's holes in them, so you see where your money is going. And I don't mind at all paying an admission fee when you see that the money is going to maintaining the actual park. Girka is also really nice. It's sort of like Plitvice light. So that's really cool. Within Split, I like all the, like I mentioned, there's the little park, I think. There's tons of little parks everywhere. I really like going to Solin. And what's it called? The Immaculate
Salona?
Church of the, no, not Salona. That's Rocks in a Field. I don't really care about that. No, the Lady of the Church of the Island.
Yes, on the grass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
so they got this like
City
cool
center.
little river thing going, and their little restaurants and cafes.
Have a lot of peacocks there as well. Have you seen?
I
them?
did see that. Yeah, they're
there's
really
so
cool.
many.
Do you know what to call a female peacock?
There's it's different name. I forgot.
Peahen.
Yeah, something like yeah. It's only
Just
male.
for the viewers at
only
home, right?
male peacock.
You learn here. But like you walk up the river a little bit, and they got the old mills, so there's a little bit of history thrown in there. And again, that's free, really easy access.
Police Fortress, maybe.
Cliff's Fortress. So like if you're big into Game of Thrones, obviously that's a big deal. And it's something you can reach by public transport for people who are trying to maybe not spend 50 euros on a tour. So that's fantastic. And the islands are swell. I'm not much of an island guy. And again, when you go to Far, it's more like, and it's another old city, I mean.
True.
But I think during the summer, if you're into the vibrancy and the life and whatever, it's obviously not just the highlight of this particular area, but like the Mediterranean as a whole. I really liked Omish. I'd never heard of it before.
And Satina River.
Exactly, right? And then like what I wanted to do, like the fortress on the hill, I thought would have been cool. Closed during the off season, so that was unfortunate.
But you could climb. It's like only 40 minutes of hike, I think.
Oh, up to the old one, up the
Yeah,
top.
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's who does exercise, man? I wanted to go to the low down one. Like that's 10 minutes. I can handle that. 40 minutes uphill. What
For
are you-
others who are more active, 40 minutes up to the Fortica.
But the cool thing might have been like they have this zip line that
Oh,
like
yeah.
goes like
I
across.
did it. Did you do it?
Well, it's closed, right? It's the off season,
Oh, okay.
and it's not cheap either. It's like 100 euros. Or something.
Yeah, something like that. But it's worth it.
Oh,
Worth it.
yeah.
I would definitely say. I mean, okay. I expected a bit more. The first line was the most like adventurous. It was like 150 meters above the river, and it was like the craziest one. And the others were like okay, But I think it's a good thing to do, especially if you're going on that side. Why not?
Yeah, because you want the spectacular bit. Because if you're gonna die big. Don't die a little bit.
Of course.
Like falling to like mostly your death. That's not fun.
Dying in a bed, it's so like mainstream.
Absolutely.
But like it's boring.
Who does that nowadays?
Yeah, come on.
So I think all these little hidden gems. Not okay. Dubrovnik is great. Whatever you want to go up to Rijeka and Pula and like all these like the main ones when you're flipping through the tourist guide. That's fantastic. But all the sort of slightly smaller ones, the Omish, the Trogir, the Shubenek, the ones that. So my favorite one, and I have no idea how to pronounce it. On the Croatian-Bosnian border,
Okay.
there is an old Yugoslavian underground airbase.
I saw your photo, Željava.
I know, right?
Željava, yeah. This
So
is
that's
like ex-Yugoslavian military base. And
But airplanes underground, like it's
Yeah.
so counterintuitive. But the best part about it is it's technically not legal to visit, which is kind of exciting.
yeah.
Like
they
they
say
have all
it's
these.
like kind of Croatian Chernobyl.
Exactly.
in a
So they
way.
have all this like toxic stuff that's
Yeah,
been,
yeah.
and all these bats, so it's
But you're gonna
definitely
die
toxic.
anyway,
Who
don't
cares,
worry.
right? It's definitely haunted.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no question.
For
It's
sure.
100% haunted. So you're sort of there the whole time, and because the police still monitor because it's on the border, and
Mm-hmm.
they're looking for migrants, and so you're sort of looking over your shoulder the whole time. And fantastic
There's
experience.
a good movie about it. It's a Moku documentary.
Okay.
It's called Houston, We Have a Problem. It's amazing one. I think I don't know if it's Croatian guy who moved to Canada or Australia. I'm not sure, but anyway, he was working there, and he's now in a wheelchair. And he came there like I don't know how many years after, and he met his daughter, and he was interviewing there, and it's amazing. You should watch it. It's really cool one. And that is how I found out for Željava. I didn't know about that place for like 20 years, and I'm like, damn, you
Super
know,
cool.
I know for I don't know a place in Spain, and I don't know for places in Croatia. I'm like,
It's always those little things, right? Like Froggy Land.
true. Yeah, Frog. I haven't been there. Have
You
you?
haven't been there? No. But just knowing that it's there,
Yeah.
that's satisfying enough for me.
Sure. It's something different.
Or if you want to go to the statue and like rub his toe,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's a little bit erotic, I guess. I don't really.
The golden toe.
I'll touch it, whatever. Okay, other people.
Make a wish and touch it. And
Well,
then,
disinfect it first, then.
yeah, COVID thing. Okay, have this alcohol thing, but make a wish and then touch it, and you know, gently. Okay, Joey, tell us some advice for Croatia, for everyone who wants to move here. What would you say, like, or in life in general? I mean, you're a big expat. You were living in like 20 countries, and you have some experience, I think.
I think the big one is do your research. Like, if you're going to stay long term, like with the digital nomad visa, do your research of the requirements before you leave home.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of the documents, like, they have to be legalized and stamped by some sort of authority back home.
Originals.
Exactly. And so trying to like get that original from here, trying to get it authenticated from here adds an extra level of difficulty that's just, it's easily avoidable and unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have to send all my documents back home to Canada now, so it's like express courier, and I'm using my brother to help me, you know, sort of
Mm-hmm.
send it to different agencies, and it's,
Complications.
you know, it's
Yeah.
unnecessary complication. So just like be prepared if you're coming, especially long term on some sort of visa. If you're coming as a tourist, decide what's important to you
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the time of year that you're going to be here. If you just want to sit on a beach and, you know, be like 35-degree weather and whatever, you want to party every night and get drunk, summer's going to suit you super well. If you're a little more budget conscious and don't really like crowds, then really research, you know, do I want to come in March? Do I want to come in November? These sort of things. And
Off season, yeah.
come in that, maybe not like January, February, but maybe that shoulder sort of
Yeah,
season.
beginning
you know?
of, okay.
You're going to save money, you're going to avoid crowds, but there's less, like fewer buses, fewer
Mhm.
ferries, so there's a little more planning involved. You can't just hop on a bus that leaves 10 times a day. But it's not, you know, my stepfather's from Croatia, and certainly when the war was happening, which is now, what, 30 years ago,
Yeah.
right? It's just not the same country.
Mm-hmm.
It's young, it's progressive, it's EU. Okay, they don't use the euro and it's not Schengen, but it's still EU. It's modern. It's not this sort of backwater. What was that movie? The Hostel, where they, you know, where like,
That's like too harsh, I think.
you know, like they're not gonna like, you know, kidnap you and murder you in your sleep in
That
some
was
sort
past. Maybe they did it in past. I don't know.
of. Sure, that was last week, man. It's not like that anymore. You know, it's just not that anymore. It's in 30 years the country has reinvented itself. It's still growing and progressing. So in another 10 years it'll be a totally different experience. But it's definitely not something to be worried about. And they need tourism here. Like 25% of the GDP or something ridiculous
People
is
come.
based on tourism. So, you know, your tourist dollar is making an impact into local lives. You know, it's not like going to Paris where they almost resent tourists. They need tourists here, and so it really helps.
It helps, yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Thank you, Joey.
All right.
Peace. I have alcohol there.
Alcohol out of okay.
Well, thank you for watching and thank you for your attention. I hope you like it. If you really like this video, make sure to like, share, subscribe, put this ring bell so you will be always notified when I publish a new video. And thank you. Cheers. See you. Ciao, ciao. One
Woohoo.
more.
There we go.
Okay. Now you can talk shit. Now you can talk.
Man, I hate coming here. I